Hello and welcome back to Tarotzahara. And you guessed it, I'm still Tina Zahara. Anyways, I would like to discuss something really fast first. If you're wondering why I made up a fictitious person and did a reading for a person who doesn't really exist, rather than doing a reading on, I don't know, current affairs or something, or someone that everybody knows, right? That was the last video. I read an article today about a tarot influencer who just got sued for $10 million for basically maligning some guy, defaming him or whatever, based on a tarot card reading, and the judge was not pleased about it. Like, you have to remember when you take on tarot. Tarot is not a science, although if you want to talk about sciences, don't get me started on meteorologists. They make like 1/10 as many predictions in any given week as a psychic, or 1/20th or whatever. And they're wrong probably 30-40% of the time. If we were wrong 30 or 40% of the time, we'd get starved out of the business. Like, we are not allowed to be wrong that much, because if a meteorologist is wrong, everyone just kind of shrugs their shoulders, whatever. If a psychic is wrong, oh, she's a scammer, she's a ripoff, she blah, 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 and people get all crazy behind it. Like, and the truth is, people believe what they believe. If someone is hell-bent on not believing in psychics, not believing in tarot, not believing in astrology, whatever it is, you're not going to convince them. And trying to prove to them or trying to convince them is a fool's errand. I'm just telling you, they're not going to be convinced. Case in point. I had this Uncle Frank. Uncle Frank was kind of, whatever. He was a crusty kind of curmudgeon. And my mother thought it was so cool when I started working as a psychic. And so I tell her, as we're on our way to Uncle Frank's for Thanksgiving, don't mention that I'm working as a psychic. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to deal with all those narrow minds, blah, blah, blah. But of course, she did. Of course she did. So Uncle Frank says, oh, that's bullshit, blah, 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 blah. So Mom says, prove it. And I'm like, no, I really don't want to prove it. And she's like, no, go ahead, prove it to him. Show him, blah, blah, blah. Ugh. So needless to say, I got talked into it. So I said to him, okay, grab something that I can hold in my hand, something that you know the story of, and bring it to me, but don't let me see it. Just put it in my hand and don't let me see it. So Uncle Frank disappears upstairs for, God, it must have been 20 minutes. He was so gonna prove me wrong, right? So when I see him coming down the stairs, I turned my back so that nobody could say I was peeking or whatever. And I held my hand out behind my back, and he put a ring in my hand. And I'm holding the ring, and I've got my eyes closed, and I'm kind of rolling it around in my hand, and I go, okay, so this is a ring that was given to your wife from the kids, but that you purchased. And it was for a spring holiday in between 1969 and 71. And it has something to do with birthdays or heritage or something like that. And I hand him the ring back. I never even looked at it. So he's standing there, and Mom goes, come on, what is it, Uncle Frank? Turns out the ring was given to his wife. He purchased it to give for the kids to give to her for Mother's Day in 1970. And it was her birthstone in the middle and their birthstones on either side of the center stone. I nailed it. Like, duh, right? He still wouldn't believe. It was done right in front of his face, and he still wouldn't believe. That's the point. Don't try and convince people that psychicism is real or that tarot is real. And also don't believe that it's foolproof, because it's not. It's pretty accurate, and especially if you know what you're doing, it's really accurate most of the time, except for yourself, or at least for me. Like, I'm not terribly accurate for myself. But in any event, people will recognize when you're reading for them and you start saying things like, oh, your husband, oh yeah, he's an early riser and that drives you nuts. Like, you're not getting that from the cards, or maybe you're getting some of it from the cards, right? But they'll know, they'll recognize as you're speaking, they'll recognize that you do know what you're talking about, and they'll get quiet, and you'll have a chance to prove to them without showing off, without trying to act like it's a beyond and end all. I mean, people don't understand that a psychic doesn't come into this world with all the answers to everything and all the lottery numbers, or none of us would have jobs, right? We'd all we'd all win the lottery and we'd be rich and nobody else would have any money because we'd have it all, right? That psychicism is something that you develop. It's like any other God-given talent. It's like having an artistic talent or a musical talent. You still have to train it. You still have to practice. And still, the more you learn about your craft, the better you're going to become. The more like side information you get, like astrology and stuff like that, the more you can work everything into your reading and make the reading just really just shake the world. When I do a reading for someone who's never had a reading before, I always feel like it's like smacking a piñata, because it's like untapped and you can just boom, everything comes flying out. And they know. I mean, they know as you're talking, it doesn't take long before they figure out that you do know what you're talking about. When I used to do parties, I used to have 6 minutes. Like, okay, I've got 6 minutes per person to say something profound enough that that person's going to go out into the party and talk to everybody else and say, wow, she was amazing. And they all line up and 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes. You'll get there, but you got to practice. You got to practice, and you got to handwrite your notes, and you got to type out your notes. So anyways, there's my little spiel for today. Let's get started. And we are starting tonight with the Hermit. There he is. He's an old geezer. He's older probably even than me. He's an old geezer. He is on top of a snow-capped mountain. He has got his staff. He has got his light. In this deck, most decks, but in this deck, he's got a Star of David for a light. And he is up on the top. That he rules like things that are high, things that are cold, right? So he is card number 10, numerical value card number 9, numerical value of 10. He is also sometimes called the Sage. Planetary associations would be Saturn and Mercury, and astrological signs would be Virgo or Capricorn. Capricorn because it sort of rules old age, and Virgo because, well, we'll get there. Okay, and then the physical location, it should be the finger outstretched, right? The yod, but some refer to it as the hands. Okay, so the Hermit has climbed up the mountain. It's taken him time. He's old. He's in no hurry. He has reached this pinnacle and he's learned wisdom along the way, right? So anything that's old, anything that's cold, anything that's high. One time I was looking for something and I pulled cards on where it was, and I got the Hermit, and sure enough, I found it on top of the refrigerator, right? High, cold. That was pretty perfect. Okay, he is the bearer of, he bears the light. He shines the light for the seeker to climb up. He's not strong enough. He's an old man. He's not strong enough to help you up. You don't see him offering his staff to pull you up. He just shines the light and lets you come up on your own and gain your own wisdom on your own climb. So he does not speak. He's silent. Okay? And he sort of reached this wisdom by looking inward for answers rather than looking outside of himself. He's not going around asking everybody, what about, what about? He's turning within, and he's in sort of a meditative kind of place, and he accesses the information from above and gains his wisdom that way. So just like the fool is indicative of youth, he's indicative of old age, and the patience and wisdom that come with old age, and really the stillness, because there's a stillness about the Hierophant. The Hermit. So prophetically, he would be about introspection and contemplation and meditation, divine wisdom. I mean, wisdom, but generally like more of a divine wisdom than, your standard, I'm old and I figured things out over the way. He is in possession of truth. He will not speak the truth, but he will shine the light for you to see it on your own. Completion and realization belong to the Hermit, or it can represent a person, an older person, or a time to just kind of retreat from everybody and just be by yourself and, deal with your own, your own brain, your own thinking, your own consideration and patience and wisdom. Okay. So when you reverse him, because he's stingy, like he doesn't tell you anything, he's stingy, he becomes greedy when he's reversed, right? And because he's the bearer of the truth, which is, symbolized by the lantern, the light, right? That's the truth. When it's reversed, he is going to lie. He's going to dissimulate. He's going to disguise stuff. He's going to camouflage stuff. Secrecy and selfishness certainly belong to the reversed Hermit. The Hermit reverse could also be someone who's, someone who has gotten old but has not gotten wise and has not gotten patient with the old age. It could be someone who can't come to terms with their age, whether or not they're actually old. It could be someone who's, 25 and thinks they're all washed up at 25, something like that. Or it could be someone who feels lonely, someone who has been in isolation and just really wants to come out of isolation and really kind of wants to rejoin the world. And certainly with the Hermit, and this has a lot to do with Virgo, because I've never known a Virgo yet who doesn't get sick to their stomach when they get stressed out, right? You get tummy troubles with a reversed Hermit, okay? Okay, now, the next card is the Wheel of Fortune, otherwise known as Fortuna or the Wheel. The Wheel of Fortune is card number 10, but numerical value of 20. Because remember, the cards, the numerical values, right? The Fool 0, numerical value of 1, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30, 40, etc. Till you get to 100, and then 200, 300, and 400. Okay, so this is the first card, the turning point, where it turns from single digits to double in terms of your numerical value. It is absolutely the card of Jupiter. Sagittarius would be the sign associated with it, but this is not usually a significator for a Sag, but a Sag is more likely to turn up the wheel in a reading than a non-Sag. And there really isn't a physical location on this one. If there was, it would be kind of like the solar plexus, like, the solar plexus. But there really isn't a body, really, it doesn't have a strong medical association. Now, the Wheel of Fortune is the card of karma or destiny or kismet or whatever you want to, whatever you call it, whatever works for you. It's karma is evolution, right? You keep coming back, you keep coming back, you keep coming back to learn the lesson. So things that cycle, so that would be your period, your paycheck, your rent, your mortgage, anything that cycles around would be the Wheel of Fortune. And it is a card of luck and good fortune. Now, this one gets a little tricky. Different wheels, sometimes they show like the 4 elements in the 4 corners. This one that shows people getting flung off the wheel. Like one person's getting flung off the wheel because, it's going around. So the guys on the top came up and the guy on the top fell down because it's going around, right? And so luck, games of chance, gambling, lotteries, and I have predicted 2 lottery wins with the Wheel of Fortune. Thank you. And I was right on both counts. Although only one person tipped me well for that. That was not very nice of them. Okay. What you want to do when you see this wheel, when I see the wheel, the first thing I think of is like, okay, here we go with the karma. Now, karma, people like to think like, okay, I went to the grocery store and I didn't return the extra $2 of change that the clerk accidentally gave me. And so that must be why I had the car accident on the way home. Every once in a while, some people really are instant karma kind of people, like it's rare, but they're out there. But that's not really the way karma it technically works. If you study it, I studied it at the Kabbalah Center in LA, and I've read a lot on it, whatever. It's more like you come into this life with these circumstances, these parents, these siblings, you have these children, this spouse or not, whatever. And you're here to learn certain lessons. And so to the extent that you learn the lesson, you don't need to repeat it next time. And so by definition, wherever you are in your life is better than you've ever been before. That's why I always tell people like past life regressions, I've had a couple that were really, really, really helpful. But that's the exception rather than the rule. Usually it's just to satisfy someone's curiosity, and the circumstances are usually pretty dismal, or at least more dismal than where they are now. And so I don't really recommend past life regressions, but karma. So when I see this wheel, I'm like, okay, what's the karma? Where is this thing coming from? Is this luck? If this is luck, what you're going to see, you've got your 10 card spread, right? Let's say it's the 4th card in a 10 card spread, right? Like if it's the 4th card in the 10 card spread and everything after it is really good and the stuff before it is either wishy-washy or not as good, then you can say, okay, something really fortunate is going to happen. Some lucky thing is going to happen. Some fateful thing is going to happen, and so you want to look for that. But it can also be a change in circumstance. Sometimes, technically, it's supposed to be good luck when the wheel is right side up, but it doesn't always really exactly work that way in practice. You'll see that some people have a knack for just getting the cards to get up and tap dance for them. Like the cards will just tell them everything, And other people have to work a little harder. Like I'm not one of those people that can get the cards to tap dance. Like I have to sort of reason everything out, and our characters looking at each other, what's touching everything. Are there two separate spreads going on? Are there sub spreads within the big spread? Like, and I've got to reason all that stuff out. But some people, you know, it works out really easily for them. And for those people, this will always be good luck. But it's not necessarily good luck. It's a turn of fortune. It's a change in fortunes, right? So even though it is really supposed to be a card of good luck and good fortune, it's ruled by Jupiter. It could also be weight gain, right? Because that Jupiter expands. It's expansive, right? So you really have to, more than a lot of the other cards, you have to read the other cards in the spread when you see that wheel to figure out whether this is good luck, whether this is something just fateful that's just gonna happen, or, you know, however that's gonna work itself out. Okay. And and then when you reverse it, when you reverse the wheel, it may or may not turn into bad luck, right? Or circumstances that won't change. You know, a turn in things that you're waiting for that just doesn't turn, right? Or it could be a bad cycle. You know how people say they're going through a bad patch, right? Something like that. It could be if a person's a gambler and it comes up right side up, that's not a good time to be placing expensive bets. That's a time to either not gamble at all or just not gamble with very much. It could be things that take a turn for the worse. And medically, right side up or upside down, take a turn for the worse, take a turn for the better, right? Medically. Yeah, or you know, a gambling debt that won't pay off, gambling problems, a risk that won't pay off, instability can show as a reversed wheel. Okay, it's not really that great reversed, but it's not always bad. So again, you got to read everything around it. Okay, and now the Justice card. I have my little theories that I've sort of developed or learned from astrology, or learned from wherever I pick them up, wherever I pick this stuff up, who knows. The Justice card is next. It is card number 11, numerical value of 30. Planetary associations would be Venus and Saturn. And astrological sign absolutely is Libra. And physical location would be the kidneys or the heart. Kidneys because that's associated with Libra. Or the heart because it has associations with your love life. Okay, so the planet Venus rules the money that you earn, which is not the same as like inheritances or trust funds or gambling wins or, you know, found money. It's the money that you earn and your love life. And it also rules Libra and Taurus, but this is really much more of a Libra card than a Taurus card. And so there tends to be balance, right? You've got your little scales. See, you got your little scales there. There tends to be balance between your love life and your money. So it'll go one of two ways. Both are kind of in balance with each other, right? Like your love life is going well and work is going well. Or it goes the other way. All the energy is in your love life and none's in your work. Or all the money, the good luck or the good stuff is, all the energy is in your work and not your love life. It's going to go one way or the other, right? But it always seeks balance. The Justice card always seeks balance. And so whether the justice is karmic justice or sort of universal justice, or whether it's like legal courts and judges kind of justice that is going to be dictated by the other cards around it, or whatever you asked, whatever question was asked that drew this thing in the first place, right? And so it will come to restore, this will come out to restore balance, or to show you that balance has been restored, or that things are under control, or that, something really unfair happened to you and it gets worked out, so that justice is served, right? Or it can just like restore equilibrium where there's excess or lack, right? So prophetically, it could certainly be legal issues, divorces, getting sued, getting arrested, anything like that. And any sort of government involvement in any sort of partnership. So that could be like someone getting married, because that's right. It becomes legal. It could be the government getting involved in like a tax situation or something like that, right? Or really sort of any kind of relationship. Remember, when I talk about relationships in this class, people tend to automatically assume that when you say relationship, it's a romantic relationship. And that's not necessarily the case. Just like it wasn't the case with the lovers, right? It's not always a romantic relationship. It could be any kind of relationship. Neighbors, coworkers, friends, psychic and reedy, whatever kind of relationship that is. It can be issues of balance or righteousness, like who's right in a fight, right? That would come up as the Justice card. And she comes up very often when a decision needs to be made or when legal help is necessary. Okay? And sometimes, and I'm not quite sure why, I mean, they say that bisexuality, like Libra and bisexuality are, sometimes bisexuality will show as the Justice card. When you reverse the Justice card, again, you get things that aren't fair, things where everything's just out of balance, everything's out of whack. It could be, lost through lawsuits, like I said, issues of unfairness or bigotry or something like that, opposing forces, like a battle sort of opposing forces. And indecision. Indecision is a big one. And just for the record, just because, so I've said it, right? If somebody has a decision to make, do I take this job or do I take that job? And, you do all the normal things. You think it through. Okay, it's 50-50. Okay, so then I write down the pros and cons. Still 50-50. Like, I can't figure this out. You know what? Indecision is worse than a bad decision. No decision very often becomes a decision by lack of a decision. So you always, when you get stuck to the point that you get a reversed Justice card, flip a coin, draw straws, put a yes and a no in a hat and pull one out, anything, make a decision, because it's always easier to course correct after you've made a decision than to just sit there with this weight on your back, just, of just that indecision. Okay, or lost proportions can come in as the Justice card. And then the next card, and this is kind of an important card. We've got the Hanged Man. See how he's hanging by his foot? Okay. Hanged Man is card number 12, numerical value of 40. Planetary association is absolutely Neptune, the martyr. Pisces, rules Pisces. The feet, skin, and hair. The Hierophant, the Hanged Man. There's the hair, there's the feet, but the skin, it just sort of goes along with the astrology. Okay, the physical location would be the crown of the head, right? So, up until this point, the Fool's kind of do, I'm a lucky dog. He's going through his, and he's meeting the Hermit and the Hierophant and the Empress and the Magician and everybody. He's met all these characters up to this point, and he's starting to get into more of the abstracts. The Wheel and the Justice card are more abstract. They're not people. They're concepts, right? And the Hanged Man, this is the official story. This is the way this is what I've sort of gleaned from different things that I've read, right? The god, I think it was Odin. I think it was the god Odin. Had gone through all this stuff in his life. And at some point, he just kind of sat back and said, like, is this all there is? Like, a relationship is great, and, power is great, and all that other stuff, but, like, what about my soul? Like, what about my spirit? What about the bigger issues in life? And so he decided to sort of contemplate. So he wounded himself with his sword, hung himself upside down by the foot, hence the position, hung himself upside down by his foot, and was waiting for a sign from God, right? And as he really felt the life draining out of him and he was about to die, he looked down, and in the puddle beneath him, he saw the runes. And when he reached for the runes, the Yggdrasil tree that he hung himself from released him. Okay, this is the official story, for all it's worth. It is a state of sacrifice or suspension. It is, suspending your own desires, suspending your own self-interest. And it's surrendering sort of like immediate gratification. So there's certainly a slowness, or more really a stillness, in the Hanged Man. It's stopping and waiting. Sometimes when you've done all that you can do and things aren't moving, there's nothing else you can do but just stop and wait and be patient and let go of the desire for change, the desire for an answer, the desire for whatever it is that you're looking for, and just surrender your will. It's definitely a card of surrender. And, a suspension of physical gratification, immediate gratification, that kind of thing. And when you become more dependent spiritually than physically, when your soul needs more than your wardrobe, your soul needs more than your bank account, or that maybe both need something, but the importance for you is in your soul, not your bank account. And it's sort of depending on you getting some sort of a sign from inside of yourself, from your dreams, from the world, you know, even if it's just a dumb sign, you know, like I had this problem with my eye, right? And I was driving down the street and I was thinking like, I just don't know like whether I should get the eye fixed. I'm really kind of freaked out about about the idea of eye surgery, or whether it's just like whatever. And as I was thinking about it, right, this van drove past me, and on the side of it, it said, the Center for the Partially Sighted. And I was like, hey, they have centers for people who are partially sighted. I I guess I can let my fear run the show, and I'll just live with partial sight. That's fine, right? I did end up having the surgery years and years and years later. Okay, so prophetically, it would be meditation. It would be sacrifice. It would be suspension, whether that's actual something being suspended or whether it's like a suspension of desire of some sort, right? A martyr for a greater cause, wisdom, prophecy, a brilliant idea or intuition. Stillness and quiet belongs to the hanged man. But the hanged man, I don't know about you guys, but the hanged man always screws me up because he looks like, when he's right side up, I mean, when he's upside down, he makes more sense than when he's right side up. So it took a long time of my trying to reorient myself with the way it looked, right? And so when you reverse it, it's like delay rather than something that you've willingly surrendered, right? It's like something that's taken from you rather than you surrendering it. It could be a hospitalization or an institutional stay of some sort. Sacrificing yourself or your safety or your comfort for somebody else. Most of the time, it's stagnation. It's that horrible, stuck, I can't make anything happen here. Or it could be a refusal to make the necessary sacrifices that you need to make to get what you want. And it can also be bad, just plain old bad ideas. And since we're on a roll, let's just, well, let me finish this really fast. The thing about the hanged man is that when he makes his when he makes his sacrifice, he willingly submits to the underworld. There's a series of Major Arcana cards that comprise the underworld. It's all the ugly, yucky, the death card, the tower, the devil, these kind of cards. And so he's surrendering his comfort and going through the underworld because he knows that the only way to get to the real culmination of like spiritual and physical is to make the sacrifice, right? And so the sacrifice is the death card. Card number 13, numerical value of 50. This is Pluto and Mars, Scorpio, Scorpio, Scorpio. It is sometimes Aries as well because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and co-ruled by Mars. And Aries is ruled by Mars and co-ruled by Pluto. So they're kind of kissing cousins or battling partners or something, right? But it's really primarily Scorpio because it's a very Scorpio energy. If it deals with the physical body, you know that's going to be the pelvis. It's Scorpio, right? This is when people see the death card, right? There's your little death card. You've got the Grim Reaper and his white rose, blah, 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 his sickle, his scythe. People assume that the death card is physical death, which it's not. It can be, but very, very, very rarely. And sometimes it's even hard to tell whether it's going to be physical death or not, because it's just, there are so many different kinds of death. The death of a marriage, the death of a job, the death of poverty, the death of wealth, the death of, there's a lot of kinds of death. And it's not necessarily a forever ending. With my first husband, right? We had been living together for a few years, and there were just some recurring problems that just weren't getting better, right? And one day, it was during finals, I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, I'm just not going to do this anymore. When finals are over, we're going to have to make some decisions here, right? So we broke up. I issued an ultimatum, and, him being a Capricorn, he did not take the ultimatum well. So we broke up. And as far as I was concerned, I can't speak for him, but as far as I was concerned, we were done. There was a long story, but I was engaged to somebody else after very shortly. And I was like, okay, this relationship is over. I'm done. And it was over, but it wasn't over. That leg of the relationship was over. That iteration of the relationship was over. We did end up getting back together. And when we got back together, we got engaged and we got married. And we had other problems, but the problems that we had before were not the same problems that we had after. So it really was a death of sorts. It just wasn't a death, right? And so, the death card is like the phoenix that rises from the ashes, or, slash and burn farming, right? Where, okay, you plant your seeds, the corn grows, you harvest the corn, you cut the stalks down, you set them on fire, and from the ashes of the old corn stalks, right? The soil becomes very, very fertile. The universe abhors a vacuum. If you take something away, something is going to replace it. That's just a given. There's never a time where something is taken away and nothing replaces it. If money is taken away, poverty replaces it. If employment is taken away, unemployment replaces it, right? So there's always that sort of like death and rebirth kind of thing. The phoenix that rises from its own ashes, okay? And that's what the death card is. Now, on the other hand, if you're reading like my second sneeze of a marriage, it didn't last longer than the sneeze, it didn't even, I kept pulling cards and pulling cards looking for that death card. Like, this thing has got to be over. This is insane. Like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I'm miserable, right? And I kept pulling and pulling. I could not get that death card. Could not get the death card for love or money. And sure enough, I didn't get the death card. He stalked and stalked and stalked. Oh my God. Guy will not move on. But anyways, and so some death are good deaths. The end of that marriage was a beautiful thing in my life. I was miserable. He had me half crazy by the time I finally freed myself from that nightmare. But it was a good thing, the end of that marriage. I needed to get away. I needed space. I needed quiet. I needed sanity. I needed control over my own life, And so this was a good death. Not all death is bad. So and I know I'm going to say this, and you guys are all going to go, and you're going to write it down in your little notebooks, that God willing, you're writing it down in your notebooks. But then the first time you get that death card, when you have the flu, you're going to be like, oh my God, I have COVID. I'm going to die. It's part of the process. The more you pull cards, and the more you pull cards, and the more you see the death card come up and nobody dies, the more you'll start to grasp the larger picture of the death card. The death card is about change. It's about change. If it is physical death, I'll tell you the profound secret. If it is about physical death, it will theoretically, or it always has for me, come up right side up with a reversed Knight of Swords. Why Knight of Swords? I don't know. But that's generally the way death looks in a tarot card spread, would be the death card straight up and the Knight of Swords reversed. But that doesn't mean that every time you get the death card right side up and the reversed Knight of Swords, someone's going to die. It just means that if someone's going to die and if it's going to show in tarot cards, that's how it's going to show. Okay? And so I think we've kind of beaten that horse to death. And then when you reverse the death card, right, you get stagnation, lack of motion, unwillingness or inability to face the end of some aspect of your life, your circumstances, right? And without surrender, right, you get stuck. You get stuck, and we've all been there, stuck fast, and that's no bueno. Give me death any day over stagnation, because we all learn one way or the other that nothing lasts forever. Like, when you're happy, that won't last forever, but guess what? When you're miserable, that won't either. So there's a sort of prevailing wisdom there. Okay. Okay, and remember that without surrender and without death, there can be no rebirth. If you don't cut down those corn stalks and burn them and, put all that nice nitrogen into the soil, whatever, you can't plant anything there because there's already stuff there. So you have to have the death. Next class, we will cover more of the underworld. For now, if you like what you saw, please like and subscribe or share or whatever. Comments would be good. I will respond to comments, especially since I'm just starting out here, so I don't get that many, so I've got plenty of time to do them. But anyways, until next time, I hope you've learned something, and I hope you're pulling your 3 spreads a day, and have a lovely day. Thank you.